Incoming transmission. Incoming transmission.
After countless megacycles of war, I have faced no harder decision, given no more difficult order than this. Effective immediately, all Autobot soldiers are to retreat their positions and gather at Iacon. A final general evacuation has been planned, and it is presently underway. I implore all of you to resist, as I have resisted, the temptation to fight until the end. The end is here and now. Cybertron itself is past the point of survival. The future of the Autobots lies far from these war-torn lands. That future must begin now. I look forward to the honor of serving each of you again aboard the Ark. Until then, may the Primes watch over you. General evacuation? I thought I'd heard it all. Optimus expects us to turn tail and retreat. Not happening. If I turn my tail, it'll be to crush another wave of Decepticons with it.
Don't know why I'm bothering to record this. I'm no Jazz. I do my duty and that's that. Anything I've got to say isn't worth a drop of Energon more than any other grunt. I know Optimus would disagree and say that all Autobots are important, but words just aren't my way. I've got no gift to string them together and have it mean something, like some do. Me? I'll take some weaponry, an ambush point, and a patrolling Decepticon squad any day. Things are clearer that way. Simpler somehow. I follow my orders, pull hard when it's my shift, and leave the philosophizing to the ones who get the proper qualities. Speaking of, we got our marching orders. Kaon, storming the gates of Kokolar. Guess it's about time we gave Megatron and his some of what they got coming. Lots of new faces on this campaign. If I had a spark, huh? Some of them rooks couldn't tell the business end of an assault rifle from the grip. That's not their fault, mind. This war's dragged on for far too long now. Lost too many soldiers to replace them all like for like. Scrap Megatron for it. He's scrapping the whole tin heap of a planet. It's plain as can be. Just look at the state of the place. Buildings are rusting, gears and slag are all strewn about every which way. Camp's clean at least. Orderly. Well, that's about all there is to say. Our Energon stores are drier than dust, and that's the truth. If this war goes on much longer, we'll all just grind to a halt. Wouldn't that be something? Decepticon and Autobot frozen together. Puts a new twist on till all are one, doesn't it? It won't be long before we start encountering some resistance. New ones are eager. New ones always are.
Battlefield log 4578. Leapers. There's a whole platoon of them activated. If you're listening to this, turn back and avoid engagement at all costs. These things are as savage and brutal a warriors I've ever seen. But if you must face them, always keep moving, and try to engage them from behind. Their armored claws make a head-on attack a waste of Energon. Forward recon to base. Over. Base. I'm not sure if I've got a transmission connection or not, but in case anyone is hearing this, here's a little FYI I wish someone would have shared with me before I got into this prime-forsaken place. If you come across a web of faint lasers, avoid them. They'll wreak havoc on your systems and jam your cloaking ability.
Lieutenant, we're pinned down. Cannot proceed to rendezvous. There's a giant marauder laying down a wall of flak. Thing won't let up. Primus! Just lost our flank support. 3 more down. Let's go get these sons of rust buckets.
Arc inspection log 1245. Sideswipe here. Transmitting to, well, whoever will listen. Which at this point seems like no one. Once again, I feel compelled to record my objection to the current specifications for the Autobots Exodus craft, the so-called ARC, the prototype Vanguard-class deep space interceptor. With insufficient armor plating and only 16 particle combustion canyons and 16 laser emitters, it is apparent, to myself at least, that only the craft's propulsion system is adequate to the task at hand. Clearly, the Ark is intended to simply outrun any hostile craft. Battlefield Log 1186, Sideswipe transmitting for Optimus. Ark Energon fuel levels have been checked and rechecked. The situation is worse than we feared. Many were of the opinion that even before Megatron's latest offensive, Energon levels were insufficient for extended space travel. Now, after another protracted battle with the Decepticons, there is no more room for debate. At the current levels of consumption, we will not have enough Energon to even reach the Space Bridge portal safely. Ark Inspection Log 1313, my final entry in this record. As anyone who has listened to these updates can attest, my assessment of this so-called Ark has been far from optimistic. Though assembled by a perfectly competent team of engineers in a most efficient manner, it seemed impossible to imagine that such a humble craft would be capable of carrying the entirety of the Autobots' hopes and dreams as its cargo.
Audio logs. That's all we hear about these days. Since the General Evac order went round, all good Cybertronians are expected to record their impressions, recollections, and insights as to how we got into this calamitous mess. For the data net. For posterity? What do I know about posterity? You want my expert opinion for your audio logs? Here it is. You see a Guardian before he sees you? Put out his lights. Once he knows you're there, your grease is pretty much fried.
Never have I observed such a traumatizing sight. An entire city of rust. Everything down to the last bolt is encrusted. Severe oxidation, pitting the metal's surface, gradually deforming its shape. I fear for the health of all Autobots. The supply of Energon may be on every Cybertronian's mind, but I have observed the encroaching influence and effects of rust on many Autobots. We must be ever vigilant to its presence, or this city will overtake us all.
Log entry 29X. Much destruction has been done by the Decepticons. Going through passageway after passageway, one sees the ruin of battle. But I have observed several curious anomalies. This city appears to be healing itself. It is as if the city itself is alive.
Optimus may subsist on sheer determination and will alone. Great leaders draw their power from conviction. Their armies, however, march forward only under the power of Energon. This terrible war will reach its end, not because all have finally become one, but simply, I fear, because all have become none. No Cybertronian who's seen our once great home in its current form need be reminded that our planet is powering down, that our home is dying. So I record this log not for this day and age, but for a future that may well never come to pass. But still, we must hope that one day a future generation will once again know Cybertron only in its resplendent, gleaming, metallic glory. And it is for this generation that we must chronicle the cause and consequence of our planet's decline.
Ironhide's log. Been fighting this war for so long, sometimes I forget how it started. In the early cycles, Cybertronians knew nothing but the job they were born into, the daily grind of an orderly world. Things seemed to change in the blink of an optic. We evolved as a society and free thinkers. Many of us wanted to be free to explore the cosmos. Others had more sinister designs.
As a monitor, connected directly to the communications grid, it was as if the voice of every Cybertronian traveled through me en route to its intended recipient. And then one particular voice began to stand out. The voice of a self-named gladiator from the pits of Kaon. Unquestionably a criminal. It was equally clear that this Megatron contained a powerful, dangerously powerful intelligence.
A young archivist named Orion Pax was the first to sense something was wrong. Working in the Hall of Records, he monitored the same transmissions as everyone else. But he heard so much more. Orion was the first to realize that the gladiator Megatronus had ambitions that far outreached his success in the pits. After being shunned by the High Council, Megatronus created a new identity. And Megatron and his Decepticons were born.
It was during the countless cycles spent listening to the voice of Megatron that I first realized I possessed a voice of my own. Many believe Megatron and I were once the closest of allies. I wonder, however, if future generations of Cybertronians, if fate willing there are future generations, will be able to make sense of the fact that we could have been brothers in arms before we were enemies at war.
When the Decepticons came, they came with a ferocity no one had seen before. We Autobots weren't fighters. We had no experience in war. We were ill-prepared to face Megatron's legions, gladiators who thrived on destruction and mayhem. If we had any advantage, it was the fact that we felt we were fighting for a truer cause. Freedom.
As civil war spread like a storm of burning energon across the surface of Cybertron, devouring in its path the great city of Iacon, even I was caught off guard by the depth of Megatron's depravity. I should have anticipated his utter lack of feeling for his fellow Cybertronians, but at the expense of the lives of many thousands of my fellow Autobots, I did not.